What's going on, YouTube? It's once again Ninja Turtle here, and we're back with another custom action figure guide. And something I've just made recently is this very specific, relatively specific Marvel vs. Capcom version of Psylocke. I say that because this is not meant to be a Jim Lee version of Psylocke, and I'll point that out later on, though they're not all that different. But this is a nod to the Marvel vs. series, my favorite franchise in all video games. And this Psylocke, although I did intend for this to be Marvel vs. Capcom 2 version of Psylocke with the Crimson Dawn mark on her eye, I forgot to do that when I was making her face paint, and oops, that's the only thing that she's really missing. But we'll go over to any of the mistakes and blemishes that I've made, some of the custom things. She's complicated and not all that complicated, so let's get into it. Again, this will be a guide to how I made this Psylocke, telling you what parts came from where, what type of paint, and all that sort of thing. But I won't be directly showing you how I made that. If you want to see that, you can always tune into my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/ninja_chortle, and I work on my customs there live, so you can always check that out, or you just follow along and you can gather all the pieces as necessary. I do assume that you know something about making customs. If you don't, you can always check out other YouTubers that do give guides and show you how to paint, how to sand, how to crack torsos, how to kit bash and things like that. I'm not going to do that, so I'm just going to tell you what it's made of, and you can go from there. So before we go any further, I do want to point out one thing about her skin tone. I know it's pretty light. The skin tone that I used was Model Master's light skin tone, and this is the first time I ever used that flesh tone, and only that flesh tone. Normally I would use the Model Master's light and the warm together to create a Caucasian character with a little bit of a pink hue, but this is the first Asian character, and I wanted to see what just the light skin would do. And I thought, looking at it in the jar, that it would be a little bit more tinted than it is. But she's pretty pale, she's pretty light, so even when I was painting it, it didn't look so bad. But when I put it together, I was like, man, she's really light. So when I make more Psylocks, and trust me, I will be making more Psylocks, I'm going to play around with her skin tone. And her skin tone in the comics actually does vary quite a bit. It just depends on the artist. It can be light, it can be tan, it can be pinkish. She just goes back and forth. She doesn't really have a consistent skin tone. But yeah, the next one I make will be a little bit tanner, a little bit more pink, and we'll even compare this Psylocke to the official Hasbro releases of Psylocke, because I do have both of those most recent ones, and that's one of the reasons why I made this. But let's start at the bottom, and we'll go into that later. Alright, so for the legs in particular, all of the boots, they're pretty standard fare as far as boots go, but the legs, the boots, and the knees all came from this Deadly Origins Black Widow. I happen to use these quite often, this or Black Cat, or whatever figure that I can that has that cloth ripple effect that I like having on the ankles and on the knee area, just because she has on these leggings. So remember what I just said, that this is not a Jim Lee version. I point that out because there's a specific, the leg straps and how her boots look on the Jim Lee version. So this is literally looking at the sprite on Marvel vs. Capcom, X-Men Children of the Atom, etc., and how these straps are formed on each leg. This is assuming that you're using the player 1 version on the left side, so the right leg opens up like there, and there's some more straps differences there on the leg, and so on, goes around the back. And on Jim Lee's, because I do like pointing this out just because I want to make a Jim Lee Psylocke when I have the time, is that on her leg, I believe it's the right leg, that is not a full-on legging or boot or whatever you want to call it. She just has straps going up and down the entire leg on one leg, and then the other leg looks more or less like this. But yeah, that's pretty much it. The Jim Lee version also uses a pretty big belt, just not a sash, it's just a belt. So over time her look has changed, just depending on the artist, depending on the book, whatever game or whatever depiction she is. This is still a very popular bathing suit look, but I just wanted to point that out, that this isn't meant to be a Jim Lee version. It's supposed to be the game, Marvel vs. Capcom version of Psylocke. But with that said, these legs are not the same legs that came on this Black Widow. They're actually the legs that are on the Blink figure, so they're bigger, just a little bit bigger than the Black Widow legs. So that's typically, I mean, with Psylocke in particular, you can see how the height difference is here. I don't really know how tall Blink is, but Psylocke is about 5'10", 5'11". She's about 155 pounds. And this is typically the build that I would have for a character of her height and weight. For what it's worth, I would like to use bigger legs and then still slimmer calf muscles, but just slightly slim. They're the same ones that are again on this Black Widow. These calves on this Blink are actually bigger than these, just by a little bit, and then these thighs are bigger on the Blink than they are on the Black Widow, so I put those on here, and that's just the kind of the look that I'm going for when I make figures of that height and weight. Alright, as far as the upper torso and the lower torso go, pretty standard fare for me. If you've been around here, you know that I like using the Lady Deadpool body or the Shiklah body. This one actually is a Shiklah body. They are the same upper torso and lower torso as the Lady Deadpool, but this one is in particular a Shiklah body. So this is actually purple underneath, and then the upper torso is pink. But once you sand it and paint and prime it, yeah, you can't tell pretty much for the most part what's going on there. Now, don't ask me about the belt. I actually have absolutely no idea what figure I got this belt from. It is just a straight, just piece of plastic, soft plastic. I really don't know what figure I got that from. I wish I could tell you. I'm sorry. I failed you. You can use many other belts. You can, in fact, I was actually thinking about hard sculpting the belt because it's a fairly set belt. It's not a sash in the game. It's not a sash on the Jim Lee version. So I was just going to hard sculpt it, but I had it available and it was white originally. So if you know where this belt came from, it's just a straight up belt. Or I don't know, maybe it wasn't a belt before, but I'm using it as a belt. It was white and I painted it red. And I actually intended for it to be a purple pink color. Unfortunately, I didn't have purple paint at that time when I started painting the belt, so it was just going to be pink, but then I didn't like it pink, just like a bright pink, so I ended up painting it the red color, I believe is chili red from the Angelus acrylic leather paint, and then painted on the X symbol there. But yeah, that's it. Basically what happened there. I really don't know where that belt came from, so I failed you. I am sorry. Alright, as far as the rest of the figure goes, again, I already talked about the flesh tone, but the blue, it is particularly a color called dark blue from the Model Master set. I really love this blue. I loved it so much that I actually started making this other figure that I have not finished yet. It's coming, but I was painting blue on that, and I loved it so much on that figure that it made me immediately want to make Psylocke using the same blue, and I did. I pretty much quick finished this Psylocke just so I can paint her blue leotard, her blue bathing suit on, and all of the details. One detail that I totally messed up, though, admittedly, is her arms. One thing that I would like to do better next time is, instead of painting just the forearm blue, I want some of that to go up into her past her elbow onto her upper arm, her bicep, just a little bit, just so that it feels like a full-on sleeve instead of being two separate, parts of arm and then two separate paints. I really messed that up. I should have done better. I should have recognized that, but I didn't. But while we're here, these are fairly generic arms. They're the older arms. They're not the new. They're not the arms that came on Blink. They're the arms that are just on any old figure. I really don't remember which one in particular this one came from, but those are just pretty generic arms. The bands are epoxy sculpted on and painted blue, and then all of that follows. There's your backside of Psylocke. Everybody wants to see that. But yes, it does have some cheek there. All of this is just painted on, and this is me learning my lesson. If I was old me, I would have sculpted all of the cloth parts on, and it would have been more of a problem later on when trying to put her upper torso and lower torso together. So I've learned my lesson and just painted it on there, and it looks totally fine the way it does, like that. Same with the upper torso. All of that's just painted on. And here we have one thing, let's see, that is very custom to this build, and that is her hand. If I can get her feet to stand, sorry. There we go. Her hand is a custom hand. I did that myself. It is a regular open hand that you would normally get on most female figures where they have their whole hand spread open, but I cut it off and ended up making it like a peace sign, because it's really supposed to be her part of her default stance, her idle stance, where she holds one hand up with her two fingers pointed up, and then the others are, it's just how she stands in her default pose, and the other hand's in a fist with her psychic knife, and that's all I went for. So this hand does not exist. You can't find a figure, as far as I know, with Marvel Legends that's female that has this particular hand. You have to make it yourself. So again, I just cut off the other fingers that were normally open and then use epoxy sculpt to create my own fingers. They don't look amazing, but it does get the job done. And her fingers still separate. They should be together. If you wanted to glue them together, you could do that. That's your call. Another thing that could work is actually heating up the fingers, and while they're hot, because plastic is hot, you can manipulate the shape at that point. While it's hot, push them together and then stick it into cold water while you're still holding it together, and maybe it'll get their fingers to shift a little bit closer together than they are. But I didn't do that. I decided just to leave it like that is, because I'm totally fine with the way it looks just like that. But yeah, this is meant to hopefully, when posing, mirror her idle stance. Regardless, she will always have her hands like that. I didn't make any other sets of hands. But while we are working on things, we can go ahead and talk about her head. So again, Psylocke already exists within Hasbro Marvel Legends, but I never really liked that face. I actually do really like the face of the Psylocke that they gave her, that they made, I should say, but I don't like the look of it, because I don't think it looks like Psylocke whatsoever. That's not very close. You can get closer, Silk. But the head choice that I have here is from the Silk figure. So this is the new Silk that just came out, the fan choice. It's only on Hasbro Pulse. But I also had the previous Silk, and I ended up, actually, this head is not even that. This is the Silk head without the mask. There's to say, this is a Silk head without the mask, but it's a copy of that Silk head. So I've been able to successfully make copies of heads, and this is the first time I've done that since my first custom on the channel, which is the Rachel Summers. That was a copied head, but I haven't done that since then. So that was back in June, and now we're back, and I've actually made a copy, and I'm starting to work those things out. So I should have this head available to use for all of my Psylocks, regardless of the fact that I only have one extra Silk, so I can't keep using original heads. and this is gonna help save me a bunch of money because I was gonna buy like 10 of these and use them. I say 100, but yeah, I was gonna buy like 10 of these so I can have that alternate head, so I can use it to make Psylocke and other characters that I wanted to use that head for. But now that I can just make a copy, and I've successfully made a copy of that silk head, I don't need to buy a bunch of these. I bought 2 of these. I got one just to replace my old one, and another one to use as fodder to have the hair, because I really like the hair too. But this is a silk head. It looks a lot different because there's a lot of paint on it. It has you know, I had to paint over I removed all the paint. Actually, this is a copy, so there was no paint. It's actually clear plastic underneath there. You can't really see it, but it's just clear plastic, and then I painted everything on top of it. She does have purple eyebrows. The next time I do a Psylocke, I'm going to try to lighten up the purple because you can hardly see it. It's very, very dark purple. I'm gonna fix that in a second, but yeah, it's a very, very dark purple, unfortunately. And same thing, her eyes are actually colored the same purple, but you just can't quite see it very well. It's just super dark. So I'm going to try to brighten it up next time, and hopefully it'll come out and show a lot better. Red lipstick is actually Insignia Red from Model Masters, so it's a little bit darker than your normal red would be. And I had to paint her eyes and all of that stuff. Turned out okay. Could be better, but actually this doesn't even look the way I thought it would look, but it still doesn't look so bad. But we'll compare this to the other versions of Psylocke. But let's talk about the hair real quick. This hair is the color is Angelus leather paint. It is grape 5 color, and it just, I think, 2 or 3 layers of paint to achieve this. And then the hairstyle comes from the black cat figure that is the newer, not the new one that's coming out, not the retro wave, but the most recent one that's like her with the eyes on the chest. This is that hair. So sorry I don't have it available. I'll put a picture up though, but this is that hair, and I love it. I think it looks really great. I chose this hair for the Marvel vs. Capcom though because I couldn't quite tell if it was a ponytail in the game. I don't think so, and maybe if I looked a little bit deeper at some screenshots I could see, but for the most part I didn't think it was a ponytail. I think it was just long hair. I know sometimes in some of the sprites it'll hit on her shoulder, it'll fold up, but for the most part I thought this is fine. I'm gonna give the Jim Lee version of Psylocke a ponytail when I make it, and yeah, that'll be that when we get to that. Alright, so now we got our figure comparison, which you've been waiting on. We have the brand new Psylocke from the Nimrod 3-pack that I literally just took out of the box right before filming this video, just so I can have for this segment. I've had that in my room, I've had it in my possession for the last month, but I need to really clean up my X-Men shelf and all of my toy shelves, and I didn't want to take it out of the box to put it up on a dirty shelf. But either way, she's here, and we got that comparison. Real quick, I absolutely love the color on this, so I'm going to definitely use this hair on a different Psylocke, probably my first version of X-Force Psylocke that I make using this head, and my own customs and stuff. But yeah, definitely going to use this one and not this one. But this is the other Psylocke that was more recently made. I mean, they're the same heads, relatively the same heads. The paint color on their makeup is different and stuff. And also, I didn't notice until I took this one out, is that the skin tone on both of them, the Hasbro versions, are much different. This one is actually my desired skin tone for Psylocke. So when I attempt to make my next Psylocke, I'm going to try to mimic this color the best I can. Again, this is just using light. It's a lot lighter than I thought it was going to be. I would rather have this. I do like this one as well, but I would rather have this one be the flesh tone. They're painted on straps all over their bodies. I sculpted mine on, so I definitely like this a lot better. I love this blue, and we all know the controversy that surrounded this one with it first coming out with black hair and blue body, but then they re-released it with purple hair and then this darkish bluish purplish sometimes in the light body, and now it's like worth millions of dollars basically. Yeah, so what's also one of the reasons why I made the Psylocke is because I don't have the dark blue, like this Psylocke with the black hair that most people ended up buying to swap heads and do all that stuff. So now I can do that myself. But yeah, one thing that does make me feel really bad is that as much as this Psylocke is worth pretty good amount of money, and then the other Psylocke with the blue body and the black hair is worth even more, I'm actually going to scrap this. I'm going to not have it very soon. I'm going to be making my own custom Psylocks. I prefer this head. I'm going to try to do better with the face so it doesn't look as thick, and like, just do better with the eyes, and try to mimic some of this type of makeup the best I can. But for the most part, I love this a lot more than this and this. I'm definitely going to use this head, like the hair, like I said. I prefer her to look like this. I don't think this face looks like Psylocke to me. I think it looks very pretty, but I prefer the way Silk's head looks for Psylocke over this head. And I do have plans on using this head. Like I said, what I'm going to do is rip off their hair on both of them. I'm going to use this hair on someone else, I don't know, but I'm going to use this head, and as I made copies of Silk's head, I'm going to make copies of this one and use it on other characters. I can't wait to show you who I plan on using it on, but I will not give any hints on that. It will be coming in the near future, hopefully, as some of them work out. But this is it for the day. Also, yes, so before I go, I forgot to talk about her Psy knife. The Psy knife did come from this Psylocke. That's why she doesn't have it. One thing I didn't notice when I was making this is that the fist on this Psylocke is bigger than most fists that come with the female figures nowadays. This fist that I used, oh no, Shylock. The fist that I used on my custom Psylocke is the fist that came with Emma Frost. And that fist is just smaller. It's just the way it is. So it actually doesn't fit into the psychic knife quite that well. So one thing I might do when I scrap this is repaint this fist and put it onto this Psylocke so that the psychic knife will actually fit. Maybe. I don't know if I want to do that because I only have one more of these accessories, and that came with this Psylocke. And so I only got one more psychic knife that I can use unless I try to buy one off of eBay. Or if what I hope happens is that I can try to make a copy of this psychic knife. I don't know if it's going to work out very well, but I will attempt it eventually. And if it works, then I can put psychic knives on all of my Psylocks, which would make me incredibly happy, but it won't be the most necessary thing to do. But I do have this sword. The plan is I'm going to make, again, a Jim Lee version of Psylocke, and I have this sword, and I have the sword that came with her as well. I want to make an X-Force version. I want to make some other versions of Psylocke, but they all can't have the same accessories, unfortunately, because there's just a small limited supply. So I'm also going to give some Psylocke's regular swords because I actually prefer the look of her with a regular sword as opposed to a psychic sword like this. But I still will utilize them on some Psylocks here and there. Alright, that'll do it. That is it for this video. When I make those other Psylocks, like the Jim Lee version, I'm probably not going to make a separate video like this one is. I'm gonna include it in like a month-end video and just say, hey guys, here's a quick update. I made another version of Psylocke, because I do plan on doing quite a few. Any type of special Psylocke that is maybe like the X-Force version, or something that's not quite the same as this, because I mean, if I change one strap or paint one thing different, it's a different version of Psylocke, and I want it, but I'm not going to make a whole video on that. But if it's a completely different version of Psylocke, like X-Force, then I'll probably make a video for that. And then there's also like Captain Britain, which I do want to make. I hope that Hasbro makes for me so I don't have to do it. But then there's also possibility that they won't do it, and then I'll make one my own, hopefully, and I would definitely make a video on that if that ever happens. But no promises there. But yeah, and one thing you can see again, the arms, see how the glove or whatever goes up onto her bicep, and I didn't do that on mine. That's a mistake, I know. I will definitely not make that mistake again. So this will go on my Marvel vs. Capcom shelf. If you don't know what that shelf looks like, you should go back and check out my month-end video for September. I do show that off, and this will be on my month-end video for October, and basically be the update for October with, among other things, hopefully. And you'll see it then on that shelf and whatever else that I've put up there since then. So see you guys next time, and make sure you subscribe to this channel so you can get updates on the videos that are going up, as well as check out my Twitch live stream, again, twitch.tv/ninja_chortle. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram as well. You can see pictures and get updates on when I stream and what I'm making. And lastly, Discord is totally free. I put behind the scenes photos up over there, so link for that is in the description. See you next time.